Delighted to be joined this evening by a former dean of the College of Earth and Mineral Sciences. He is now president of Penn State, Dr. Eric Barron. Great to have you on the show, Eric.
Great to be here.
So, exciting times, yet still challenging times. I mean, from where you sit, what has Penn State learned about itself over these past 18 months or so?
You know, I think one of the most important things that we've learned is that we can be nimble and we can pivot. At the beginning of the pandemic, during spring break, we made decisions about not bringing the students back with the potential that the infection rate would increase as they came from all of their summer breaks. And by Monday morning, we had over 60,000 students in Zoom classes at 10 a.m. in the morning. That's incredible. But we have been really systematic throughout the whole process of not making decisions far in advance, but rather living by the data. We're constantly being advised by health professionals. We're constantly looking at what the data on the ground looks like, and we're making decisions and pacing ourselves. So this notion that we can pivot, we can be flexible, and quite frankly, we can be resilient. And if you're not, it's a tough road.
Yeah. You know, you pass by those land grant frescoes in Old Main almost on a daily basis. This is a very visible sign of Penn State's heritage. How has that land grant mission changed over the years, and how does it inform the way you lead Penn State?
You know, I think first of all, I love the land grant mission. I interpret it really simply: in service to society. We're a university in service to society. And my view is that Penn State is living that land grant mission to a much greater extent than ever before. So I'll give you an example. What people would typically talk about is agriculture, incredibly important. Extension agents in counties, you know, providing climate data sets and weather forecasts in a case like the College of Earth and Mineral Sciences and this department. But now we're seeing it much more broadly. In service to society means that we should have a student body that's representative of the state of Pennsylvania. In service to society means that we should take those students that are challenged in their education and welcome them here and get them to the finish line. Increasingly, we've looked at entrepreneurship and creation of businesses and promoting economic development in the state. So we have an economic development hub, much like Happy Valley Launchbox. We have an economic development hub now on 21 sites within 30 miles of 96% of the population of Pennsylvania. That is living in service to society.
Yeah.
So we're seeing this more and more in terms of what we do.
Changing topics just a little bit, there certainly has been an uptick in the last few years of what I guess we could loosely call anti-expertise sentiment.
Yeah.
And when you get together with your Big Ten counterparts, does that topic come up, and what role do you think universities such as Penn State should play to address that?
Yeah, so Penn State is part of the Big Ten. We're part of the AAU, the 60-plus leading research university, and also APLU, which are publics and land-grant institutions. And particularly in APLU and AAU, this is a frequent topic of discussion. Interestingly, during the pandemic, we saw an uptick in how people viewed the research universities in terms of the science. They trusted what was coming out of the universities more than they did a legislator, more than they did a government entity, more than they did their media sources. But in large measure, we have a lot of people that are getting their information or hearing it could be this or it could be the opposite, and it has degraded people's trust in science. A lot of discussion at Penn State and how things like the Belisario College of Communications can actually work in an education mode to have people a better sense of what to value out there and what they should be suspicious of.
Yeah, you mentioned the AAU. There's been a lot of talk about conference realignment with the news that Texas and Oklahoma are moving to the SEC. I mean, when that kind of discussion comes up within the Big Ten, the AAU plays a pivotal role, even though you don't hear much about it, right?
Well, the AAU probably not so much. The conferences, of course, do in a big way because, you know, first of all, you're looking at the integrity of the sport. More and more these days, you're looking at the health and well-being of the student athlete, and of course, there's that big dollar sign out there that so many people are driven by in terms of their decision. I see most of the discussion that is valuable as within the Big Ten or within the Pac-12. And the NCAA plays a lesser role in that particular process. The Big Ten really cares about student athletes, and I'm proud to be a part of it.
We have less than a minute left. You have already announced that you will be stepping down as president in June of 2022. What would you like people to remember about the Eric Barron presidency at Penn State?
You know, I hope that they see the access and affordability elements that we've worked on and achieved Penn State that's really had an impact on the student population and their success. I hope the entrepreneurial part of what we've been doing is something that people think about in that process. And, you know, I'm counting on them also realizing that okay, for me it was eight years here, considerable effort, and having to navigate some really difficult places, fraternities, history of our football team, a pandemic, and that perhaps I did the best I could.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Dr. Eric Barron, president of Penn State, former dean of the College of Earth and Mineral Sciences, really a delight to have you on during the first
Thanks.
week of classes. And we will be back in a moment with more.